in addition to the video and images and all and the different kinds of proof that our government has with regard to UFOs. In addition to that, it's also time for the faction within the government that's been keeping this a secret for all these decades. It's also time for them to give us information about the bodies, the extraterrestrial bodies that they most certainly have stored someplace on some secret base somewhere. There's most certainly bodies of extraterrestrials that were recovered from crashes. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt in my mind that there were bodies that were recovered in Roswell. There's no question about it. I mean, there's just so much information that points in, so much proof, actually, I believe, that points in that direction. The fact that you had the mortician back then, Glenn Dennis, who's now deceased, from Roswell, he said that he was contacted by the military during right after this crash happened, in 1947, in July of 47, and he was asked about hermetically sealed caskets that were child-sized. Of course, because these bodies that were found were only like 3.5 feet tall. These beings, that's how big they were. They weren't that tall. And, of course, they would want hermetically sealed caskets for something like that. And where are those bodies now? I am certain that they did not dispose of these bodies. They're probably kept somewhere on some base somewhere, frozen somehow. So you have those bodies, and there's been other bodies that have been recovered throughout the years from other crashes. There's no question about this. There's no question. So in addition to the proof that they've been sitting on for all these years with regard to UFOs, they're certainly crash saucers or recovered saucers like Bob Lazar talked about. He actually saw them with his own eyeballs, was actually inside of one, right, at S4 near Area 51 in Nevada back in the late 80s. So in addition to the craft that they have, and also remnants from crash saucers, in addition to all that, they also have bodies. It would be interesting. I'm sure our scientists of the world, right, would be very interested in knowing everything they can know about these extraterrestrial visitors, about their physiology, by withholding this information from the public. It's stunting our growth as the human race. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's time not only to release whatever you got on UFOs and whatever you know about these craft, right? It's not only time to come clean about that, but also, okay, what do you have with regard to the alien remains that have been recovered from these different crashes from Roswell? We want to see this. We want to know. People out there want to know this. I know a lot of people out there will hear this and think, "Oh, this guy's crazy." No, he's not crazy. Actually, the truth of the matter is that if there are beings coming here from other worlds, and if said beings crash their saucers, that means said beings might be dead, laying there, and that means also that military personnel that recovered these things also not only recovered the craft, but they recovered the bodies. So that means somewhere in this country, in the United States, and I'm certain in some other governments of the world, they're keeping this secret. I'm sure they have recovered alien remains and they're keeping them stored somewhere. But there's no question in my mind that here in the United States, there is a place where these bodies are kept and kept away from the public, kept away from public view. There's probably a hand-picked group of scientists who are aware of this and who do get to study these things. But unfortunately for the vast majority of scientists throughout this world, they have no clue about this. They have no inkling. They have no. They don't believe even that this is possible. A lot of them have their heads they just can't believe this until somebody shows it to them. And that's the problem. Nobody's showing it to them because our military has been keeping this a secret. So there are bodies out there. There's a lot of different stories throughout the years you hear about, like in the early 70s, supposedly Jackie Gleason, the late comedian, he's been dead, I guess it's about 85 now. And he was big, as everyone knows, on that in the 50s, especially in the TV show, The Honeymooners. And of course, he played Sheriff Buford Pusser in the Smokey and the Bandit movies. But in the early 70s, he used to play golf with President Nixon. And when he was in Florida one time, Gleason, who had a really great interest in flying saucers and UFOs, he wanted to see proof of this. And apparently Nixon took him to some base there in Florida and showed him some mummified alien bodies. And now, in the early 80s, Gleason's ex-wife told this story to the National Enquirer. Okay, yes, I know it's the National Enquirer. However, she told this story to the National Enquirer, and Gleason, who was still alive at the time, he never, said anything about it. He never tried to say, no, that's not true. He didn't deny it. There was never any denial. In fact, he was a very, very big fan of the whole UFO stuff. He collected all kinds of books, and he was very into it. And apparently this is true. And in fact, she said that when he came back that night and told her about this in the early 70s, that he saw these bodies, he was very it bothered him. He was very troubled. He was like white as a ghost. It was troubling to see this. It did something to him. It scared him. I think it would scare anybody if you were to see something like that. Until you actually see something like that with your own eyeballs. I mean, some people, a lot of people, even people that believe in this, they can't even imagine what it would be like. And then when you actually see it, it's probably just so fantastic and unbelievable and scary, all kinds of different things all at once. But you know what? We have these things. We have them, but they're not sharing it. They're not sharing it. Again, this whole thing stunts our growth, or our growth as a human race, by just keeping these things away from our scientists. They're in the dark about this. Most of them think it's foolish. They even think this. It's not. There's nothing crazy about it. I mean, look at, we're here, right? We're here. Look at this. Right? We're alive. We're like, there's nothing so fantastic that there might be something here that's smarter that's coming here, right? There's nothing wrong with to think that. There's nothing crazy about it at all. With the size of the universe, of course, there's going to be something out there that's more advanced than we are. And intelligent. There's going to be millions of different intelligent races out there scattered throughout this galaxy, throughout the universe. So that means when you reach that conclusion, then you realize, well, of course, if that's true, then some of them probably they're probably coming here to check on us. And hey, not only that, what do you think we're going to be doing in, say, 1,000 years from now, 2,000 years, 3,000 years? What do you think once we're already out in space, but once we figure out how to travel into deep space and do some exploring, I'm sure we're going to find some planets. And what are we going to do when we get there? You think we're going to show up and land and say there's some beings living there that are similar to the way we were back in the 1700s? Okay, you think we're going to land and say, take us to your leader. We're from some distant planet. We're not going to do that. We're going to keep our distance and just study them and be fascinated by, this is how we used to be 5,000 years ago. Isn't it interesting? Let's watch it from a distance. And of course, sometimes some of those beings on this future planet that I'm talking about, this faraway world, are going to look up and they're going to say, "Hey, what's that thing flying around?" And that person will be, he'll be deemed crazy, but even though he really did see something, then it was us. That's what's going on here. It's nothing fantastic. It's not incredible. It's just the way things are. But anyway, I digress. I'm getting back to the bodies here. Yeah, it's time. I'd like to know more about, how many species do you have on ice? That'd be nice to know. I'm very interested to know. And was there anything really to that Jackie Gleason story, or was that just a fabrication by Gleason's wife? Let us know. And another thing too, how about some pictures from the Roswell crash? I want to see what those bodies look like. It'd be nice to, in addition to these videos and stuff, when you start that you've been releasing over the last, verifying our actual Pentagon military film videos. In addition to that stuff, it would be nice to see what else you have on film or video with regard to these alien bodies. And maybe do you have a couple of live ones stored away somewhere that you've captured and or tortured maybe somewhere, I don't know, for information. It'd be nice to know about this. What are you doing with the live ones, if you do have any live ones? What did you do with the live ones before they died? I mean, there's a lot of different questions here that it's time to start sharing this with the scientific community, uh, so we can grow as a human race.